What if everything you believe about your life is only a fragment of what is truly possible? What if the routines you cling to, the goals you chase, the dreams you quietly suppress, are not reflections of your potential, but shadows cast by a mind that has yet to awaken? Most of us move through life as if we are passengers, drifting along currents we barely understand, reacting to circumstances, adapting to expectations, and rarely questioning the invisible forces shaping our choices. And yet, beneath this ordinary existence lies a power, a God-given capacity, dormant in nearly everyone, waiting for recognition, waiting to be claimed. Dr. Ernest Holmes, a man who devoted his life to exploring the mind and its untapped abilities, described this power not as magic, not as wishful thinking, but as a universal law, a creative intelligence that flows through every living being. According to Holmes, we are not merely at the mercy of events, of other people, or of a reality we perceive as fixed. We are, each of us, co-creators of our experience, architects of our existence. And yet, the vast majority of people live as though this law does not exist. They struggle, they endure, they settle, while the potential for profound transformation quietly waits within them. History is littered with hints of this extraordinary capability. Mystics whispered of it in ancient temples. Philosophers debated its presence in the human soul. Modern scientists, peering into the subtle architecture of consciousness, began to glimpse evidence that thoughts are not passive reflections of the world but active forces that shape it. And yet, why is it that so few grasp it fully? Why is it that the knowledge of this inner power is so often buried beneath fear, doubt, and the noise of a world that teaches us to look outward rather than inward? The tension is real. On one side, there is passivity, the familiar comfort of surrendering to life as it unfolds. On the other, there is intentionality, the conscious act of directing thought, belief, and energy toward creating the life one desires. Few dare to cross the threshold. Few understand that the failure to engage with this power is not just a missed opportunity, but a silent surrender to mediocrity. The emotional cost is high. Frustration at unfulfilled potential, regret for paths not taken, the quiet, gnawing awareness that life could have been different. And so the question emerges, sharp and unsettling: what if the life you are living is only a shadow of what is possible? What if the reality you accept as unchangeable is in fact a canvas, waiting for you to pick up the brush? What would it mean to finally recognize the power within, to see yourself not as a passive observer, but as an active creator? And perhaps most unsettling of all, if you do nothing, how long will you continue to drift, allowing life to slip through your hands, while the power to shape it lies dormant inside you, waiting to be awakened? Dr. Ernest Holmes was not born into mysticism. In fact, he began his life as a skeptic, a man questioning the world around him, dissatisfied with explanations that felt incomplete or hollow. Born in 1887 in Lincoln, Maine, Holmes grew up in an era of rigid belief systems and religious orthodoxy. Yet, even as a child, he sensed there was more to reality than what the eye could see or the church could dictate. He observed the world with a keen, analytical mind, asking questions that often unsettled his peers. Why does suffering exist if God is benevolent? Why do some people seem to effortlessly attract success while others struggle endlessly? These questions would not leave him, and they became the catalyst for a lifelong pursuit of truth. Holmes' journey was neither linear nor devoid of struggle. He worked as a journalist, teacher, and seeker, exploring various spiritual and philosophical traditions. His life was marked by intense curiosity, a refusal to accept dogma, and an unshakable drive to understand the laws governing human experience. It was through this restless exploration that Holmes began to perceive a unifying principle underlying all creation: a universal intelligence, a divine force accessible to every individual. This realization formed the foundation of his philosophy. that the power of God is not an external force to be petitioned or feared, but an internal presence waiting to be consciously harnessed. Central to Holmes' work is The Science of Mind, published in 1926, which remains a seminal text in the field of metaphysical thought. In it, Holmes presents a systematic approach to understanding the mind's creative power. He argues that thought is not merely a passive reflection of reality, but an active force capable of shaping experience. Every belief, every assumption, and every habitual mental pattern acts as a blueprint for the life we construct. To Holmes, manifestation is far more than wishful thinking. It is a disciplined, intentional alignment of mind, belief, and action. When thoughts resonate with universal principles, they set into motion the very mechanisms that bring ideas into tangible form. Holmes' ideas draw parallels with ancient mystical traditions. The Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, finds a clear echo in his understanding of mind and matter. Vedantic philosophy, emphasizing the unity of individual consciousness with the universal, resonates in Holmes' assertion that divine intelligence is not separate from us, but inherent within. Christian mystics, too, who spoke of the kingdom of God within each person, anticipated the very essence of his teachings. Holmes synthesized these esoteric insights, translating them into a framework accessible to modern seekers, intellectually rigorous, psychologically informed, and spiritually liberating. Modern psychology further illuminates the mechanisms Holmes described. Concepts like neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to reorganize itself through repeated thought and experience, mirror his insights on mental habits and belief systems. Subconscious programming, once considered mystical, is now understood as a cognitive reality. Thoughts and emotions ingrained in the unconscious shape, perception, behavior, and destiny. Holmes was, in many ways, centuries ahead of contemporary science. He recognized that transformation begins within, that to alter one's external circumstances, one must first cultivate mastery over internal processes. Yet, Holmes was no detached philosopher lost in abstraction. He was deeply human, aware of the challenges inherent in aligning thought with reality. He acknowledged doubt, fear, and resistance as natural forces that could derail the manifestation process if left unchecked. His writings emphasize not the denial of these experiences, but their conscious integration. To observe, understand, and redirect mental energy toward constructive ends. This makes his philosophy profoundly practical, not merely theoretical. It is a guide for living, a manual for exercising one's innate creative power with awareness and ethical responsibility. In essence, Holmes presents a radical reimagining of human potential. He invites us to see life not as a sequence of random events dictated by external forces, but as a co-creative process, where consciousness interacts with universal intelligence to shape reality. Manifestation, therefore, is not a trivial pursuit, or an indulgence in fantasy. It is the disciplined cultivation of mind, belief, and purposeful action. It is, as Holmes envisioned, the art and science of thinking in harmony with the divine intelligence that permeates all existence. By examining Holmes' life and philosophy, we glimpse the convergence of spirituality, psychology, and personal empowerment. He reminds us that the key to transformation has always been within, waiting to be recognized, practiced, and embodied. Understanding this framework equips us not only to manifest desires, but to live with intention, clarity, and profound awareness of the invisible forces that govern both mind and matter. Holmes' legacy is a call to awaken, a philosophical bridge connecting the mystical past with the scientific present, urging each individual to step into the creative power that is inherently theirs. The most profound power in the universe is not found in technology, wealth, or even intellect. It resides within each of us, a quiet, unseen force that has shaped civilizations, inspired revolutions, and transformed ordinary lives into extraordinary legends. This power is the creative intelligence of the mind, the ability to influence reality simply through consciousness. Philosophers, mystics, and scientists across time have recognized it in different terms: the universal mind, divine intelligence, or the subtle alignment between thought and outcome. At its core, this is not abstract metaphysics. It is a tangible principle that governs the way ideas, actions, and circumstances unfold in the world. Consciousness is not just a passive witness. It is a lens through which reality is filtered and constructed. Every perception, every decision, every imagined possibility sends ripples into existence. The human mind, when focused and aligned, does not merely react to life, it actively shapes it. History is filled with individuals who, seemingly against all odds, brought forth innovations and transformations that were once considered impossible. Consider Nikola Tesla, whose visions of electricity and wireless energy originated purely from the clarity of his imagination, long before the world could comprehend them. Consider Mahatma Gandhi, whose unwavering mental focus and belief in nonviolence mobilized millions and altered the course of an entire nation. Even ordinary people, when consciously aligned with their inner power, have manifested outcomes that defy logic. People who healed themselves against medical odds, who created wealth from nothing, who found solutions to problems that had defeated experts for decades. This innate power operates through the principle of alignment. The mind contains multiple layers: conscious thought, subconscious patterns, and the deeper intelligence of the universe that responds to focused attention. When your conscious intentions, subconscious beliefs, and the currents of universal intelligence align, manifestation becomes not an act of luck, but a natural result of coherent energy. Imagine a compass pointing unfailingly toward your deepest goals, an invisible current carrying you toward outcomes that your conscious mind only dares to imagine. This is not magic. It is the interplay of belief, clarity, and consistent mental focus, the three pillars of manifestation. Belief is the foundation. It determines the lens through which you perceive possibilities. A mind shackled by doubt cannot influence reality. It reacts only to circumstances. Those who understand the law of belief harness it consciously, cultivating faith in unseen outcomes and training their thoughts to move in the direction of possibility. Clarity is the second pillar. Vague intentions scatter energy. Precise mental imagery, detailed visualization, and a coherent sense of purpose act as a blueprint for reality to follow. Without clarity, even the strongest desire dissolves into inaction. Finally, consistent focus acts as the bridge between thought and manifestation. The universe responds to sustained attention, much like water flowing persistently carves stone. Daily focus, unwavering commitment, and disciplined alignment transform mental images into tangible realities. Across time, the evidence of this power is undeniable. Inventors see inventions before they exist. Leaders envision movements before they manifest in the world. Ordinary people, in moments of deep insight or perseverance, influence outcomes that seem miraculous. The underlying pattern is always the same. Conscious clarity meets subconscious alignment, amplified by the intelligence of the universe. This is why some succeed seemingly effortlessly, while others struggle despite equal effort. It is not circumstance alone that determines results. Is the internal architecture of thought, the invisible framework of mind shaping the visible world. Spiritually, this understanding reflects a deeper truth. You are not merely a passive participant in the cosmos. You are a co-creator, an active agent within a larger intelligence. Every thought is a signal, every belief, a blueprint. When your mind resonates with purpose and clarity, it sends coherent signals that ripple through reality, aligning events, opportunities, and people with your intention. This is the same principle that underlies every act of creation, from a masterpiece painting to a groundbreaking scientific discovery. It is not coincidence. It is conscious manifestation. Recognizing this power transforms how you perceive life. Challenges are no longer obstacles, but opportunities for focused creation. Failure is not final. It is feedback for realignment. The world, once a chaotic sea of chance, becomes a canvas where intentional thought, belief, and consistent focus paint outcomes. The invisible forces shaping reality are always at work. The difference lies in whether you operate consciously within them or remain subject to them unconsciously. Ultimately, the God-gifted power within you is both your inheritance and responsibility. It is the spark of divinity within human consciousness, the engine behind innovation, leadership, and transformation. Whether you call it the universal mind, divine intelligence, or subconscious alignment, its effect is undeniable. It amplifies intention, transforms perception, and bridges the gap between imagination and reality. Every extraordinary life, every paradigm-shifting idea, every miraculous achievement begins not with external circumstances, but with a mind awake to its own creative power, aligned, focused, and daring to shape the world from within. For centuries, manifestation has been written off as mystical wishful thinking, a vague promise of magical results that only the spiritually naive would pursue. Yet, as our understanding of the human mind and the universe has evolved, a profound convergence has emerged between ancient philosophy and modern science. The principles that thinkers like Dr. Ernest Holmes discussed over a century ago are not just spiritual allegories. They resonate deeply with what neuroscience is, psychology, and even quantum physics now reveal about how we shape reality. At the core of manifestation is belief. Neuroscience has shown that our brains do not merely observe reality, they interpret it. Our thoughts, expectations, and mental patterns influence how our neurons fire, how synaptic pathways are reinforced, and ultimately, how we perceive the world. This is where subconscious programming enters the picture. From early childhood, our experiences and repeated thought patterns establish automatic mental scripts. These scripts act as invisible filters, shaping not only how we interpret events, but also how we respond to them. In essence, the brain becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy machine. If your subconscious expects failure, your perception selectively notices obstacles and setbacks, reinforcing the pattern. Conversely, when your mind is aligned with clarity and expectation of success, opportunities previously invisible become apparent. Psychology reinforces this principle through cognitive biases. The human mind is predisposed to confirmation bias, seeking evidence that validates pre-existing beliefs. This bias, often criticized in studies of judgment and decision-making, is ironically the same mechanism that fuels manifestation. By consciously cultivating empowering beliefs, you redirect the brain's attention toward possibilities and solutions, rather than limitations and fear. Visualization, long used by elite athletes, exemplifies this principle in practice. When an Olympic sprinter repeatedly imagines the perfect start, the precise movements, and the finish line victory, the motor cortex of the brain activates almost as if the athlete were performing the action in reality. Neural pathways strengthen, muscle memory forms, and when the moment comes, the body executes with a precision born not of magic, but of disciplined mental rehearsal. Manifestation, in this sense, is less a supernatural event and more a practical amplification of cognitive and neurological processes. Even the placebo effect, one of the most studied phenomena in medical science, underscores the tangible power of belief. Patients given sugar pills, informed they are receiving potent medication, often experience genuine physiological changes: pain relief, improved mobility, lowered blood pressures simply because their minds anticipate healing. The expectation alone triggers complex biochemical cascades in the body. The boundary between mind and matter becomes porous. demonstrating that consciousness is an active participant in shaping experience. Holmes, in his writings, intuited this principle long before neuroscience could validate it. The mind's focus, intention, and faith are not mere abstract exercises, they are forces with real, measurable consequences in the physical world. Quantum theory pushes this even further. Experiments with the observer effect, where particles behave differently when observed, suggest that consciousness may influence the fundamental behavior of matter. While this does not imply that one can will objects into existence with sheer thought, it illustrates a subtle, undeniable interplay between perception and reality at the most elemental level. The universe, it seems, is not a passive stage on which we act. It is responsive, dynamic, and entangled with the very awareness that seeks to understand it. Manifestation, therefore, becomes a dialogue between intention and the unfolding possibilities of the universe, guided by clarity, focus, and consistent mental energy. Yet misconceptions abound. Many equate manifestation with mere wishful thinking, imagining that desire alone will rearrange reality without effort or alignment. This is not what Holmes advocated. He emphasized that mental focus and spiritual awareness must be coupled with action, understanding, and ethical engagement with life. Manifestation does not bypass the laws of cause and effect, it works through them. The mind sets the trajectory, attention charts the course, and behavior ensures momentum. The result is not mystical lottery. It is a disciplined synergy between consciousness and reality. The depth of Holmes' insight becomes apparent when we recognize how prescient his principles were. Over a century ago, he connected spiritual wisdom with practical results, describing ideas that modern science is only now beginning to validate. He spoke of mental imagery, affirmation, and the law of attraction, not as fanciful ideas, but as mechanisms rooted in the natural order of thought and consequence. His foresight bridges the gap between ancient spiritual traditions and empirical evidence, revealing that manifestation is not an esoteric secret but a profound law of life, accessible to anyone willing to study, align, and act. When we synthesize these insights, manifestation emerges as both art and science. It is art in the sense that intention, imagination, and belief shape the contours of reality in subtle, creative ways. It is science because its mechanisms, neurological, psychological, and quantum, can be observed, studied, and applied systematically. From rewiring neural pathways to harnessing cognitive bias, from leveraging visualization to understanding expectation-driven biology, manifestation becomes a tool for those willing to explore the architecture of their own consciousness. It is a law that responds predictably to consistent, focused mental engagement, yet requires respect, ethical understanding, and deliberate action to produce results that are meaningful and transformative. In the end, understanding the science behind manifestation allows us to see that the universe is not indifferent. Our minds are not passive spectators, but active participants. The thoughts we cultivate, the beliefs we reinforce, and the actions we align with our intentions create ripples that extend far beyond our perception. Holmes' vision was not mystical, it was pragmatic. By bridging the ancient wisdom of consciousness with the rigor of modern science, he revealed a path where the mind is both compass and engine, capable of navigating the infinite possibilities that lie at the intersection of thought, intention, and reality. Imagine a young artist, full of passion and raw talent, staring at a blank canvas. Every brushstroke could be a masterpiece, yet something holds them back. It's not the lack of skill. It's not even the scarcity of opportunity. It's the invisible chains woven through years of subtle programming, fear, doubt, and the quiet voice of self-sabotage. This is where most people fail, not because they are incapable, but because the mind, shaped by unseen forces, quietly convinces them that they are. Fear is the most ancient and persistent of these chains. fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of stepping outside the invisible boundaries society has drawn. It whispers, "Not now, not you, not possible." And while fear can protect, it can also paralyze, turning potential into hesitation. People chase security over growth, comfort over greatness, and in the process, they ignore the deeper, often unacknowledged, truths about themselves. Then there are limiting beliefs, those stories we tell ourselves about who we are, what we deserve, and what is possible. I'm not creative enough. I don't have the resources. People like me don't succeed. These phrases seem harmless, but repeated over time, they shape neural pathways and rewire perception, effectively creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. The mind, loyal to these beliefs, unconsciously orchestrates failures to prove them right. Past trauma adds another layer. Memories of ridicule, neglect, or shame are rarely fully erased. Instead, they become silent saboteurs, conditioning emotional responses, influencing decisions, and coloring every dream with doubt. A person may appear confident on the surface, but unresolved emotional wounds quietly undermine action, creating inner friction that blocks manifestation before it even begins. Social conditioning plays its part as well. From the moment we are born, we are handed scripts: what to value, what to fear, and how to conform. These narratives are reinforced by family, education, religion, and peer pressure. Over time, people absorb these scripts so deeply that acting against them feels unnatural, even dangerous. When someone envisions a life outside these boundaries, it often triggers a visceral internal resistance, a subconscious punishment for daring to think differently. The media, subtle yet pervasive, manipulates desire and perception. Advertising, entertainment, and news are designed to shape wants, fears, and beliefs, nudging individuals toward predetermined patterns of thought and behavior. Happiness becomes externalized. Success is measured by comparison. Identity is borrowed from culture, not discovered within. Most people chase illusions, unaware that the very images they aspire to are crafted to keep them compliant, distracted, and perpetually striving, without ever reaching true alignment with their inner power. Manifestation, then, is not about wishful thinking. It is an inner discipline. It begins with the painful yet liberating task of clearing mental blocks, facing emotional resistance, and identifying the subconscious scripts that run every decision. Alignment requires courage, the courage to see one's own fears, to confront limiting beliefs, and to reconstruct the mind from a place of intention rather than habit. To manifest effectively, one must transform unconscious programming into conscious choice, dissolving self-sabotage and learning to harness energy rather than scatter it. Consider our young artist again. Every hesitation, every second guess, is a reflection of these blocks. Fear of judgment, belief in inadequacy, remnants of childhood doubt, echoes of societal expectation. The path forward is not outside themselves, it is internal. They must confront the invisible barriers, feel the resistance, and slowly, deliberately, retrain their mind to act from alignment rather than fear. Only then does the canvas become limitless, and the dream, once impossible, become inevitable. In essence, the struggle to manifest is the struggle to reclaim oneself. It is a battle against the unseen forces that have shaped perception, choice, and desire for decades. The most profound power lies not in external circumstances, but in mastering the internal landscape, clearing the blocks that prevent flow, and learning to move through life with intentionality, courage, and clarity. This is why most fail, not for lack of talent, but for lack of inner liberation. The invisible chains must first be recognized, questioned, and dissolved before true creation can begin. Manifesting the life you desire is not a mystical trick or fleeting motivation. It is a systematic practice rooted in clarity, alignment, and conscious action. Dr. Ernest Holmes, one of the foundational thinkers in the New Thought movement, emphasized that the universe responds not to random wishes, but to focused intent, coupled with coherent belief. Understanding and applying these practical steps transforms your desires from vague ideas into tangible realities. And it starts with the first, most crucial step: clarity of desire. Clarity of desire is more than just knowing what you want superficially. It is the ability to define your intentions with precision and emotional resonance. Ask yourself, what does a truly fulfilling life look like for me? How do I want to feel, behave, and experience the world? Many people make the mistake of pursuing vague ambitions. I want success, or I want happiness, without specifying what those terms mean to them. Holmes teaches that the mind cannot act effectively on ambiguity. For instance, if you want financial abundance, do you mean comfort, freedom, or power? Each triggers different internal beliefs and emotional responses, shaping how the subconscious interprets your desire. Take a moment to write down every nuance of your goal, the lifestyle, relationships, routines, and even the way it feels to live that reality. The clearer you are, the more precisely your mind and the universe can respond. Once clarity is established, alignment becomes the next crucial step. Alignment is about synchronizing your thoughts, emotions, and underlying beliefs with the life you wish to create. Humans often sabotage their desires without realizing it. You may claim to want something but carry hidden doubts or conflicting beliefs that act as internal brakes. Holmes describes this as resistance, the mismatch between conscious intention and subconscious programming. To align yourself, first become aware of these internal contradictions. Observe your habitual thoughts and emotional reactions. Do you believe you are deserving of your desired life? Do your daily actions reflect the reality you want to manifest, or are they steeped in old patterns and fears? Alignment is the deliberate practice of retraining your mental and emotional habits to resonate with your desire. Picture a musician tuning an instrument. Even the most beautiful composition cannot play without perfect harmony. Similarly, your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs must be tuned to the frequency of your desired life. Visualization and affirmation are the tools that impress your intention upon the subconscious mind. Holmes advocates for vivid, sensory-rich visualizations, seeing your life as if it is already happening, feeling the emotions associated with its reality. Imagine walking into a home you desire, engaging in work that excites you, or having relationships that nourish your soul. Let the sights, sounds, textures, and feelings saturate your consciousness. Simultaneously, affirmations act as verbal reinforcements that anchor these mental images. They should be present tense, positive, and emotionally charged. I am thriving. In abundance. I experience love effortlessly. I move through challenges with confidence. The combination of mental imagery and affirming language creates a powerful feedback loop, convincing the subconscious that this reality is not a distant dream, but an inevitable truth. However, manifestation is not passive. Action and faith form the dynamic engine that propels desire into the physical world. Holmes emphasizes inspired action, steps that feel aligned, necessary, and energized, rather than forced or frantic. It's not about blindly hustling or exhausting yourself, but about noticing opportunities, trusting intuition, and moving decisively when a step feels right. For example, if your goal is to start a creative business, inspired action might be researching your niche, reaching out to collaborators, or designing your first prototype, not waiting for a perfect moment or complete certainty. Action demonstrates commitment, reinforces belief, and signals to the universe that your intention is serious. Faith, in this context, is not blind hope, but a confident expectation that the universe is responding to your aligned effort. Holmes writes that when thought and action meet unwavering faith, resistance dissolves, and doors begin to open. Detachment is often the most misunderstood aspect of manifestation. People assume it means giving up, becoming indifferent, or losing desire. On the contrary, detachment is the practice of releasing resistance, and relinquishing obsessive control over outcomes. It is the art of trusting that your desire will manifest in the right time, form, and sequence, even if it differs from your exact plan. Holmes compares it to planting a seed. You water it, provide sunlight, and tend to it, but you do not dig it up every hour to check if it is growing. Detachment allows the energy of the universe to flow without obstruction, preventing anxiety and frustration from undermining your efforts. In practice, this could mean finishing a project and then letting it enter the world without constant worry, or setting your intentions and then redirecting your focus to growth, learning, and contribution. These steps: clarity, alignment, visualization and affirmation, action and faith, and detachment are not linear or mechanical. They interact, reinforce, and evolve as your consciousness grows. A simple exercise to integrate them is a daily manifestation session. Begin by writing a precise intention. Spend a few minutes visualizing it as fully real. Repeat emotionally charged affirmations. Identify one inspired action for the day, and conclude with a moment of trust and detachment. Over time, this practice strengthens your mental clarity, emotional alignment, and intuitive responsiveness, transforming manifestation from theory into lived experience. The power of Holmes' methodology lies in its accessibility. You do not need esoteric knowledge, spiritual titles, or external validation to apply it. Every human mind, when intentionally cultivated, can engage the universal principles that govern reality. By following these practical steps, you reclaim agency over your life, replacing passive wishing with deliberate creation. Each act of clarity, alignment, and inspired action builds momentum, demonstrating that the universe is not a distant, indifferent force. It is responsive, intelligent, and cooperative with focused consciousness. In essence, manifesting your desired life is a psychological, philosophical, and practical journey. It is about knowing what you want, becoming a vibrational match for it, impressing it upon your subconscious, acting decisively with faith, and surrendering control without fear. As you internalize these steps, the boundaries between thought and reality begin to blur, and the world becomes a canvas reflecting your highest vision. Manifestation is not magic, it is the disciplined expression of human consciousness, harmonized with the underlying intelligence of existence. In a world obsessed with shortcuts, instant gratification, and viral success, the timeless principles of Dr. Ernest Holmes might seem almost radical. Yet, when we look closely, the patterns of manifestation emerge not just in abstract theory, but in the tangible lives of those who have understood and applied these laws. Consider the entrepreneur who starts with nothing but a clear vision and an unwavering belief in its possibility. While the world doubts, ridicules, or ignores, they quietly align their thoughts, actions, and energy toward their goal. Every decision, every encounter, every setback becomes an opportunity to refine intention and reinforce belief. Within a few years, what began as a dream manifests into a business, a movement, or a legacy. This is not luck, nor mere ambition. It is disciplined mental alignment, acting in concert with reality's deeper currents. Manifestation is equally visible in the sciences, where some of the most profound discoveries have originated from minds deeply attuned to possibility. Consider a researcher who visualizes a solution before any empirical evidence exists. They imagine it so vividly, so precisely, that the path to discovery seems inevitable. Holmes emphasized that the creative intelligence within us does not recognize boundaries imposed by conventional thought. When the subconscious mind becomes a fertile ground for well-defined, passionately held ideas, reality itself appears to bend toward their realization. These modern scientists, often unaware of Holmes' exact teachings, are nonetheless demonstrating his principles: intention, clarity, and persistent alignment with one's vision. But manifestation is not confined to extraordinary genius or financial wealth. Ordinary individuals, often unnoticed, achieve astonishing personal outcomes when they learn to harness their inner power. A teacher who envisions a thriving educational program. A parent who visualizes a healthier, more harmonious family life. A writer who senses the impact their words can have on millions. All show that deliberate alignment of thought and action produces real, measurable results. These are people who refuse to accept the world as fixed, who understand intuitively that life responds not merely to effort, but to belief imbued with clarity and emotion. Yet the path is never instantaneous, and the results are never guaranteed. Without discipline, modern-day examples highlight a critical truth Holmes emphasized. Manifestation is an art and a practice, not a magic spell. Patience is required, because the universe responds on its own terms and timing. Integrity is crucial, because the creative power aligns most faithfully with purpose that is ethical, conscious, and responsible. Impatience or manipulation may yield temporary gains, but such results are unstable, often collapsing under the weight of neglected principles. The process demands deep awareness, repeated practice, and a willingness to confront internal resistance. In today's context, these lessons resonate profoundly. People face financial instability, strained relationships, health crises, and existential uncertainty. Manifestation, properly understood, offers not a superficial escape, but a method to navigate these challenges with clarity, focus, and resilience. It teaches that obstacles are not merely external forces to resist, but reflections of misaligned beliefs that require recalibration. When applied consistently, Holmes' principles provide a framework for not just achieving desires, but for transforming character, strengthening decision-making, and cultivating a sense of inner authority over one's life. Ultimately, the proof of manifestation's relevance lies in the integration of knowledge and action. Holmes' teachings are no longer confined to esoteric texts. They live in the choices, the persistence, and the intentionality of those who consciously shape their reality. These modern examples illuminate a profound truth. The power to manifest is accessible to anyone willing to learn, to practice, and to align their inner world with the possibilities of the outer world. It is a practice that transforms not only circumstances but perception, showing that the life one dreams of is never beyond reach. It has been waiting within, for recognition, for alignment, and for action. The truth, long buried beneath layers of conditioning, doubt, and distraction, is simple yet revolutionary. The power to shape reality has always resided within you. Every thought you cultivate, every belief you nurture, and every action you choose resonates with the invisible currents of life, bending circumstances and possibilities toward their natural expression. This is not a mystical abstraction or a distant ideal. It is the essence of what Dr. Ernest Holmes and countless philosophers before him have been pointing to for centuries. Within you lies a spark, a consciousness capable of both profound insight and tangible creation. To awaken to it is to step out of passivity and into deliberate authorship of your existence. Accessing this power demands more than fleeting desire. It requires deliberate alignment of mind, emotion, and action. Awareness becomes the gateway. When you observe your thoughts without judgment, when you interrogate deeply ingrained patterns and replace fear with intentionality, you are exercising the foundational law that governs reality. That inner harmony manifests outwardly. Your subconscious, once a silent operator running old scripts, can become a willing partner in creation. Your imagination, guided by clarity of purpose, becomes a laboratory where ideas take form before ever touching the external world, and your actions, synchronized with conscious intent, transform these inner blueprints into lived experience. It is a process as practical as it is mystical, grounded in discipline, insight, and responsibility. Yet, power without consciousness is blind. To awaken fully is to recognize not only the magnitude of your influence, but also the ethical weight it carries. Every thought, every intention, Every movement radiates outward, shaping not only your life, but the intricate web of connections that define the world around you. Awareness is not a passive realization. It is an active, ongoing engagement with reality. It is choosing to be the architect of your mind rather than a passenger in circumstances you once believed were uncontrollable. It is the willingness to question inherited narratives, to confront unseen forces, and to embrace the profound responsibility that comes with creation. Imagine, for a moment, that every limitation you have ever believed in is a shadow cast by your own unexamined assumptions. Imagine that every fear, every doubt, every sense of helplessness is not a verdict on your potential, but an invitation to awaken. In this light, life is transformed from a chaotic sequence of events into a dynamic dialogue between your inner power and the universe itself. To recognize this is to experience awe not at external wonders alone, but at the infinite capacity within your own consciousness. It is to stand at the edge of a vast frontier, knowing that the boundaries of possibility are defined not by circumstance, but by the depth of your own awareness. The final truth is both simple and profound. You are not a passive observer of life. You are an active participant, a co-creator with the forces that govern existence. The methods are clear mindful observation, intentional thought, disciplined belief, and purposeful action, but the responsibility is profound. To awaken is to claim your divine inheritance, to honor the intelligence within, and to wield your power with clarity and integrity. It is to live with the understanding that your consciousness is both the seed and the soil, the architect and the builder, the observer and the observed. This is the ultimate awakening, to see, to understand, and to act, fully aware that the life you seek has always been waiting within you. The journey we have taken is more than an exploration of technique or philosophy. It is a journey inward, toward the discovery of a force that has always been present, quietly waiting for recognition. This force is not external, not something to be earned, acquired, or borrowed. It is a God-given power within you, a power that allows thought to shape reality, that turns vision into tangible outcomes, and that transforms ordinary existence into extraordinary life. It is the silent, invisible engine of creation that you carry with you every moment. Whether you acknowledge it or not, understanding this power is only the beginning. To awaken it, you must cultivate conscious awareness. You must see clearly the patterns of your mind, the beliefs that limit you, and the thoughts that silently shape your life. Clarity of intention becomes the compass. Alignment of mind and heart becomes the engine, and deliberate action becomes the bridge between possibility and reality. This is not a secret reserved for mystics or the elite. It is a universal principle, accessible to anyone willing to engage with it fully, honestly, and consistently. Awakening to your God-given power demands courage. It demands a willingness to confront fear, uncertainty, and the habits that have kept you passive. It demands patience, because the universe does not always move on our timetable, and discernment, because true creation is inseparable from ethical responsibility. To manifest is not to manipulate reality for selfish gain, but to participate consciously in the unfolding of life-shaping, contributing, and creating with integrity. Imagine, for a moment, the life you have always dreamed of, the life you instinctively know is possible, yet have never fully claimed. Now imagine stepping into that life not by chance, but by conscious choice. Every thought aligned with purpose, every belief reflecting possibility, every action taken with deliberate intent. This is the essence of manifestation. This is the fulfillment of the principle Dr. Ernest Holmes devoted his life to teaching. The life you desire is not a distant dream. It is an invitation, a challenge, and a responsibility. It waits within you, ready to respond to clarity, conviction, and courage. The call to awaken is urgent, because life is fleeting, and the power within you is infinite, only when recognized and applied. You are not a passive observer of existence. You are a conscious participant, a co-creator of reality. To ignore this is to settle for a shadow of what could be. To embrace it is to step into the fullness of human potential, to align with universal intelligence, and to live a life of meaning, impact, and profound fulfillment. The question now is not whether this power exists, but whether you will claim it. Will you awaken to the possibility that life is not something that simply happens to you, but something you actively shape with thought, intention, and aligned action? The moment of choice is here. The power has always been yours. The life you are capable of living is waiting. All that remains is for you to reach within, awaken, and step forward into the extraordinary.